Let's hello you absolute lovelies. Let's talk all about that penultimate episode of The Boys, Season 5, Episode 7. Only one episode to go. This is going to be full spoilers for that 7th episode. Last warning, diving into spoilers. What an impactful death. I'm really impressed at how much this episode managed to mislead and emotionally manipulate and then really stick the landing on one of the boys' death. It is the second last episode. I'm sure the last episode will feature plenty of death, but that and A-Train this season has been an incredible impact in how long we've dealt with these characters, loved these characters, interacted with these characters. Last warning before I'm going to say it. Frenchie getting killed in an episode that managed to take a lot of left and right turns in order to make us think people might die. At one point in this episode, I thought the Deep was going to bite it in the water. I thought Ashley was going to go with the way she was talking in that moment in the president's office. We'll talk more about that in a second. I definitely thought a few times that would this be how Huey goes? So he gets his own last episode before the last episode, and there might be some, vengeance on Butcher's part. There were a number of moments where I genuinely thought characters might die. And there was even a lot of, is it going to be the female? Is it going to be what brings us together is, the strongest member of the boys, and her wanting kids and the sacrifice and all those things. So when she went limp, I was like, man, but all of that was to manipulate us into having this bait and switch with Frenchie. Now, Frenchie this whole season has been the one to pull people out of the darkness, and obviously that's been a lot of people dealing with him for all these years, like his addictions and all those things, people pulling him out of the darkness. This season it's been him. They've laid the groundwork for this the whole time. All of the talk of, his relationship with her and her wanting kids, and of course that last beat of him realizing that's what he wants, or at least enough with her, that's something that he's decided to make the goal. And obviously those scenes with Sister Sage talking about love and all the Love Island stuff, like this episode did all of the right things to really make us hurt when we lost him. And of course the sacrifice itself and doing to himself what he kept having to do to her, and sacrificing himself, obviously to Homelander in a creative way where he got to have a violent goodbye, but also like take another jab at him and then get to say goodbye with a kiss and have that powerful moment, and his heart in his hands and saying je t'aime, all of that impressive death. And then the use of sound design to let the silence fill the room, to in a show that's so cacophonous, in a show that's got so much going on, to let just her sobs fill the room and have like the room feel hollow without him in it. Really impressive work. But let's talk about other things in the episode. This episode was very full. We had a lot of incredible blaspheming with people dedicating themselves to one entity, and then as soon as you realize there's a new brand in town, the way they were able to make that propaganda of the passing of the torch and all those things, I thought was hilarious, and how many people would go down that path, continuing the arc of his godlyhood. Really impressed with the Soldier Boy and Homelander scene. I love that I don't know which way things are going to go between the two of them ever. I really am impressed with Jensen Ackles and Anthony Starr's ability to always be like a different dynamic while still being true to their dynamic. Anthony Starr only kind of bends the knee to his father, and there's always that tension, but you know that Soldier Boy just did this for Clara. And I really love that I didn't know if Homelander was going to kill him, especially with this being the second to last episode. We know Soldier Boy has a spin-off show, but I didn't know if maybe they'd kill him, and then that makes us want to watch the spinoff more for all the build-up. But I genuinely thought maybe. And that creepy little sniff and all the love, all those details, very impactful. And I'm very curious how things go with the last episode. He's now in the tube. He's being preserved. I loved the Homelander in the White House visuals. I think the president's number has been up for quite some time, and those are images straight out of the last arc of the comics. Homelander in the White House, all the details of his ascent into madness, but also ascent into power, really, really work. But one thing I loved most about this episode, I think my favorite beat of the entire episode, Mother's Milk. Mother's Milk in this episode had one of the best speeches, I think, of the boys. And Mother's Milk in the comics is a very different character. And Laz Alonso is doing a great job finding those similarities in the Venn diagram. But what really impressed me is in the comics, the boys all have some version of the V in their bloodstream, or in some way they acquire it. But Mother's Milk was exposed to V in utero, and the reason he's called Mother's Milk in the comic books is because he's reliant on it to survive. He has to drink from the teat of his mother periodically. And if I remember correctly, there's later continuity where he's able to suckle his wife, but I don't know if that is enough to actually curb his draining from the Gen V. So he's jacked and huge because of V. Now, obviously, in the show The Boys, they don't have anyone but Butcher have the V. They don't have powers and all those things. So I was like, how are they going to have Mother's Milk's name be applied? And we're almost at the end of the show. I'm like, maybe they just won't. They gave that beautiful story about the dove flying free. They gave that beautiful parallel of what him and Starlight have been going through for like persevering. They gave Mother's Milk this incredible context to his origin. And I love that this episode, it's the second to last episode, but Mother's Milk and Butcher get reframed origins in almost the end. And those characters, we've lived with for 10 years, for 5 seasons. And I'm so impressed that we can find new layers to them. And the Mother's Milk origin namesake was perfect. It explains his character so well. It also, even if you know the comics, ties into his devotion to his wife in an interesting way. But it also really shows how far he's strayed because of the trauma of the detention center, because of the world he's invested in, while still being a badass, while still being the guy that Butcher would call on. And I just really love that origin in that speech, and also bringing Starlight a bit out of her funk, which brings us the redemption for all the Gen V stuff. The Gen V characters getting kind of a goodbye. I'm hoping they're in the finale, but it definitely felt like the scene of them being told they're not going to be part of the mission was also the reality of them not getting to be part of the mission of doing more show. Like, it felt very meta of them being like, hey, welcome to The Boys. No, you're not in The Boys. Hey, welcome to this scene we've set up for 2 years. By the way, it doesn't keep going for season 3. That was a very interesting, I wonder when they found out before or after that scene that Gen V wasn't going forward. But that also raises the question, is Gen V set after this season of The Boys? Was the 3rd season of Gen V going to be after The Boys season 5's finale? Because we've only got 1 episode left. The Scorched Earth can now accelerate if everything that we're getting in the Vought universe, the Latin America show and the prequel with the Soldier Boy, that could all take place before this. So they could go crazy with the finale next week. And speaking of origins, talking about Mother's Milk, I also want to talk about Butcher's. I love that Jeffrey Dean Morgan's cameo here works on so many levels, but it really works for me from a narrative standpoint of, if Butcher imagined Jeffrey Dean Morgan all of season 4, then him being like a camaraderie with him, that's how Butcher would perceive this element and how their interactions would be. I love that Huey gets to find out from the memories that are being absorbed through that psychic that Jeffrey Dean Morgan actually saw him as a leech, and that Huey is basically in that position of someone he's getting strung along with to pull him out of the shit, but he will sacrifice you in a second. And that is so Butcher from the comics. He's called Butcher, but there's this charm to Carl Urban that even when he's the worst, you're trying to, he's perfectly cast because you'd still want to help him, you want to follow him, you want to care about him, even though he's doing diabolical things. And I really love that scene with Jeffrey Dean Morgan contextualizing Butcher in a different way, giving us a different origin than what we've heard, not origin, but giving us different context to his origins. And all of those things really just build these characters out. Also, the deep stuff in this episode, we know that he's not welcome in the water anymore. Like, that's his whole world, and he's not literally allowed in the water, thanks to Samuel L. Jackson as a shark. And while betraying everything he loves, Homelander just cuts him loose. The 7 is gone. He doesn't matter. He's never mattered to Homelander, and that is just continuing the dismissal from this god of self. And so now we're going into the finale, series finale, with Homelander all on his own, getting rid of the 7, painting his face everywhere. We've got Sage, who is still going through the throes of like self-lobotomizing and not exactly on her best, but hopefully maybe this Kimiko thing with Frenchie kind of woke her up. And we've got obviously the boys reeling from the loss of one of their own, and it is going to be a very intense finale. I don't know who's going to live. I don't know who's going to die. They've obviously veered a lot from the comic books, even in this conversation. Like, Mother's Milk from the beginning was very different. The Boys not having V, very different. So I'm really curious how this all plays out. I'm curious if Huey ends up getting some V, because that is something that happens in the comic books. I'm wondering if the boys win. I'm wondering if Homelander ends it all. A satire could go either way. The tension in the show could go either way. Very impressed this season of The Boys. I hope you have been too. I would love to know in the comments what you thought of this 7th episode of season 5, our penultimate episode of The Boys. Let me know what you thought. Let me know how you're digging this season. Let's have a little conversation in the comments below, and I will see you in a week for the series finale of The Boys. Please like if you like this video. Please subscribe if you want to see that video and lots of other stuff, movie reviews, other TV reviews. Just covered all of Daredevil plus Punisher One Last Kill. Lots and lots and lots of stuff right here. So subscribe, like, and comment. I appreciate you. What a show. What a death. What an experience. What a good journey it's been. I don't know how it's going to end. How do you think it's going to end? Let me know.